This is the Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi, Satsang, a time to listen, reflect, and deeply meditate. Know yourself and be always free and at peace. Welcome. I'm Richard Clarke, hosting this satsang. I'm not a guru or a teacher. I'm just someone like you who loves these teachings and wants to share them. I'm now reviewing the Ramana Maharshi book, Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. And Ramana would sometimes answer questions from devotees and visitors. Their questions covered every aspect of the spiritual search and every problem troubling the human mind. Maharshi's answers gently led the questioner to the correct solution. Each question answered according to the questioner's own level of spiritual development. These were collected from 1935 to 1939. And here we are on Talk 54, and let me go to Ramana's words. This dialogue is with a Pandit, a learned man who has studied Indian spirituality for his whole life, and still he has questions. The first was about how best to approach, to learn, and then what is real, and is the body reality? Then questions about practice. Thoughts get in the way, and I can't get past them, and how to rid of the I am the body idea. Then on the nature of samadhi and breath control as an aid to practice. This is too much to deal with in one session, so I'll break up this dialogue and my commentary into 3 sections, and I'll start with the first question on how best to approach and learn from talks. And Andhra Pandit, an elderly gentleman, had some doubts regarding Kavakantha Ganapati Muni's exposition of Advaita. He found it in books that Brahman is free from Satyataya differences within the same category, Vitataya inner category differences, and Swargata Beda internal differences. That is, Brahman is free from differences. Such conditions are satisfied in Vivarta Vada, the path of unqualified non-dualism, the teaching doctrine of the Vedantins that the visible world is illusory and Brahman alone is the real entity. But not satisfied in Parnamavada. This is qualified non-dualism, specifically transformation theory, which presupposes the cause to be continually transforming itself into its effects. In the latter, Swargata Beda, differences are bound to be. The master pointed out that Dakshinamurti did not teach anything of the kind. He did not say that Brahman is related to Shakti, to energy, the power to act in, or not related. All that was only silence, and the doubts of the Shishyas, the disciples, were cleared. The significance is that there is nothing to be learnt, discussed, and concluded. Everyone knows I am. There is the confusion that the I is the body. Because the I arises from the Absolute and gives rise to buddhi, the intellect. In buddhi, the I looks the size and shape of the body, na midhaya, not by the intellect, means that Brahman cannot be apprehended by buddhi. Now, the questioner starts with the Advaita idea of non-difference, that Brahman is non-different between things, within things or no things, not different. Some schools of thought, like Advaita, say differences are only appearance on the non-different Brahman and are consistent with this. This is the path of non-duality, saying there is only the vast Absolute, Brahman. It may appear as something other, but this is just an appearance on Brahman, which is the only reality. Some paths, like Paramavada, the path of transportation, in which there is first one thing transformed, Brahman, to another thing, all being and objects, these paths are about differences instead of non-difference. This may be qualified non-duality, where the one spark of Brahman is within each individual, but not the same. These paths are about differences. What is correct? The Pandit asks. How should I approach these teachings? Ramana immediately tries to stop this line of approach, basically saying that each of these two paths is mental. He says that Dakshinamurti did not teach anything of the kind. He did not say that Brahman has anything to do with the power to act in the world or the power to refrain from action. Dakshinamurti taught only in silence, as silence. Silence is beyond the mind, beyond thinking, beyond thoughts. How could these disciples think about what was being imparted by Dakshinamurti, which had no words and expressed no thoughts? Ramana then goes on to say the import of this. Quote, the significance is that there is nothing to be learnt, discussed, and concluded. Everyone knows that I am. Instead of thoughts, Ramana pointed directly to the Pandit's own being, his obvious experiential being and consciousness. Ramana said, this is the way to know reality. Do not approach by thinking about it. Draw instead from the deep internal knowledge and experience with which you know with absolute certainty that you exist. You exist, and you know that you exist. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to sense it. You just know it as your actual immediate existence. This moment, here and now. What else is there that is real? There is a problem, though, for most of us. Ramana then says there is the confusion that the I is the body. And here starts practice. We just have a confusion within ourselves about who we are and what is real. This confusion we resolve by spiritual practice, by meditation and self-inquiry, by discovery within ourselves, and a bit of selfless service in our lives. All are resolved by deep inner knowledge, not mental understanding, but the knowledge that is your experience. Now the questioner goes on and continues and asks, what is real, and is the body reality? And Ramana responds, Brahman lights up the ego. The ego is in turn informed by the intellect. How can such buddhi, intellect, crossing over aham, the ego, discover Brahman? It's impossible. Just get over the false conception of the I being the body. Discover to whom the thoughts arise. If the present I-ness vanishes, the discovery is complete. What remains over is the pure self. Compare deep sleep and wakefulness. Diversity and body are found only in the latter. In the former, the self remains without the perception of body or of the world. Happiness reigns there. In the Shruti Vakya, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, I am wholeness, I am fullness, relate to the state and not the mode of mind. One cannot become Brahman by continuing to repeat the mantra. It means that Brahman is not elsewhere. It is yourself. Find that self. Brahman is found. Do not attempt to reach Brahman as if it were in some far-off place. Ramana starts saying that Brahman is what illuminates by its consciousness the seeming individual, which in turn is informed by the mind of all the objects that seem to surround it. This so-called individual occupies a body and is guided by the mind. The idea, I am this body, I am an individual, is the problem. We made this assumption very early in the life of the brain and body. we assumed we are a separate individual acting in a world. We never questioned the source of the awareness and existence in which the brain and body operate. We just accepted it as the background. We didn't challenge the idea, I am the body. How could we? How ridiculous. Isn't it obvious? Spiritual practice can lead us to where we start to look at and question those assumptions about our identity. When we start to examine and investigate within ourselves to look for the source of this being and consciousness, like Ramana instructed, we find innumerable images. They are all known to us, and we find them here in this one consciousness. From this context, the objects that seem to surround this body are within us, not separate from us. And what is always there is this consciousness and this existence. They are there even when the objects come and go and may not be present. So, what exists? What is real? Is it the objects or the consciousness and existence in which the objects seem to appear? When I look for what exists, I feel that what exists must always be here, there, and everywhere. Is existent intermittent? Does it come and go? What is your experience? And what is this within myself? What is this being and consciousness that is there even as objects come and go? I don't have to look to the universe or to a God or to learned books and teachers for this to be revealed. I just have to investigate within myself. This is who I am, so I don't need to look anywhere else other than within myself. In this investigation, I see the body changes, thoughts come and go, and this being and consciousness does not. How can I possibly be this changing body then? I must be this being and consciousness. It is what is always. It is steady, even as the objects of the world go up and down and come and go. So, what is real? And is the body reality? These ideas are resolved, self-revealed, as you inquire and investigate, who am I? When you see the ignorance as ignorance, it starts to fall away, revealing what is always there. With these two questions, Ramana answered, where is the knowledge that liberates to be found? Ramana said, it is not books, it is not the mind, rather it is revealed in direct experience and knowledge. Asked where to find this knowledge, Ramana said, not in the body and not in some far-off place. It is within yourself. This is the heart of self-inquiry. Investigate within yourself and trust what you discover and what is revealed. Now we'll listen to my teacher with a discourse, The Knowledge of Reality.
To know the self is to know the absolute reality with the self-luminous knowledge that is the reality itself. Without self-knowledge, what it is regarded as real, as if it were existing, is nothing other than the pale reflection of the definitions ascribed to oneself. So if there is the idea, such and such is, it is. Of the is, you can be certain. Of the such and such or it is merely an idea. The this aspect of one's experience always corresponding to the identity assumed for the I, oneself. To know oneself is to know the real existence as it is. It is to know Brahman. In the knowledge of Brahman, Brahman knows Brahman. The reality knows the reality. Quite evidently, the unreal cannot do so. So the Maharshi's advice, so graciously and compassionately bestowed, in light of the singular undivided nature of reality, is to know oneself. If the one who appears not to know the supreme reality inquires into his own nature, his ignorance vanishes, and likewise the one who is ignorant vanishes, for they are unreal. And the reality of the nature of Satchidananda, being consciousness bliss, alone remains, without the least trace of differentiation. So then, inquire deeply within yourself, who am I? There is no sense in starting such an inquiry with the unquestioned assumption that you are an individual apart from the supreme reality of Brahman, or the real self. For there are not two selves. Everyone's existence feels absolutely singular. There may be a multiplicity of perceptions or conceptions, but your existence is undivided, absolutely one. So then, who am I? If the one who considers himself distinct from the self, regarded as oneself, inquires, attempting to discern what in truth he is, what then is found? One's existence, or innermost consciousness, is undoubtedly not a body. The one who knows of the body is not a body, and is not known by the body. Who is that one? You may regard yourself as enmeshed within the senses, or a peaceful witness of them. But regardless of that, who is it that knows the senses, but which can never be perceived by the senses? Who is this one? Not something sensed, not something sensing, but rather ever existing, always knowing. Who is this? Who is it that knows the prana or animating life energy? Whoever this is, this one is already beyond the distinctions of life and death. Who is it that knows your mind? The mind does not know itself. Who knows? The thoughts constituting the mind have no knowing capacity of their own. Who knows? The nature of the existence of this self is neither perceived nor conceived. The reality cannot be sensed, though it alone exists everywhere, at all times. Though it is the only consciousness, it cannot be thought of. The idea of individuality is also but a bare assumption, and not the existence itself. Are there two selves, one that can be ignorant of the other? If there is only one self, then it is self-known, non-objectively self-known. Regarding one who listens, reflects, and deeply meditates on what is being suggested here, what is the nature, the existence of this one? Keep turning your vision in a non-objective manner in upon the seer or knower. The known is multiple, the knower undivided. The known is unreal, non-existent. The knower is real, of the nature of undifferentiated consciousness. Multiplicity of beings is an idea superimposed upon the self. Real being just is as it is, forever, unborn, uncreated. When you find there is no other way for you to be, that there is no other self, and nothing else existing whatsoever, that is, there is no alternative, to the reality, such as non-duality, such is true knowledge. If you want to realize this knowledge conclusively, inquire as to who wants, who wishes to know. Though the reality of Brahman admits of no divisions, it is one without a second, forever. Because of pure grace, the Maharshi has made known a path of self-knowledge upon which the one who travels such path dissolves into the original reality. For this, we ought to be very thankful. But what could be a better expression of thanks than putting into practice what he revealed, what he taught?
And now we'll take a few minutes and inquire. Just relax. Take a breath, a deep breath, and feel your breathing. Make a long exhale. Feel your breath. And now notice that you exist, and you know that you exist. And inquire, investigate within yourself. How do you know you exist? Look and see. Is this from your senses? Is it from your mind? Who knows these senses and mind? From there arises the knowledge of your existence. Is this knowledge from the mind, or is it deeper than the mind? What knows the mind and the senses too? You know this not from thinking, but from being. Who am I? What is the nature of my existence? All right. And we'll close with a chant. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Peace, peace, peace. All right, my apologies for the technical problems. Nomi's words, as always, were wonderful anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's the way that it is.
Yeah.
And for me, I really appreciated these verses. And, you know, when Ramana just stopped that Pandit's thinking, saying, don't think about all of this stuff. You can get to it, but you get to it in some other way than thinking. And as somebody who spent a lot of time thinking about practice, you know, I appreciate Ramana's very clear guidance. He said Dakshinamurti didn't do this.
That's right. One of the things that I like too is when he says Brahman is found. Do not attempt to reach Brahman as if it were in some far off place.
Yes, 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 yes.
So much striving, like we're going to reach Brahman, you know, but you are that, and then in trying to reach it, I think you get away from it.
Right, exactly. A classic problem. You know, we're trying to find it somewhere else. That's part of why I said, you know, what we need to do is to look within and trust what we're seeing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So anyway, thank you all again. I apologize for the video troubles. When I make the post the video on YouTube, then I'm going to have to do a lot of editing on this one to cut out.
Yeah, but I tell you what you present makes any obstacle worth it.
Well, thank you.
Amen.
And we know where it comes from. And we have two friends named Nome and Ramana who you know, have opened the door.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, you know, I am immensely grateful. And what I know for myself anyway is without Nomi's help, you know, I spent 25 years trying to use my ego to get past my ego, and somehow it just didn't work.
Yeah. That's the wolf in charge of the chicken coop.
That's right. That's right. Anyway, again, thank you very much. Namaste. It is my privilege and pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you.
Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste.